My name is Wilda Watson, I'm 31 years old, and 8 months into living back in my childhood home. My brother's pregnant wife walked into my bedroom and told my father it would make the perfect nursery. He told me to vacate the room that same night. When I asked where I was supposed to go, he pointed toward the storage closet with no window. I packed 2 suitcases and walked out without a word. 2 days later, my phone started ringing, and by the end of that call I would learn my father had made a decision that afternoon he was about to deeply regret. If you truly love and appreciate your parents, take just 1 second to subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to us. And before you go, tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? I'd been living in that house for 8 months, ever since layoffs gutted half of my department at the architecture firm. I wasn't lazy, wasn't a freeloader. I paid what I could toward utilities, cooked meals, kept the house clean, and interviewed constantly. None of that mattered the moment my brother Callum's pregnant wife Serena decided she wanted my room. She walked through the hallway, peered into my bedroom, the largest guest room in the house, and turned to my father with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "This would be perfect for the nursery," she said, like I wasn't standing 3 feet away. My father looked at me, and for the first time I saw something in his expression that wasn't apology, it was convenience. He cleared his throat and told me I'd need to vacate the room. I thought I'd misheard him. I asked where exactly I was supposed to go. He waved vaguely toward the storage room at the end of the hall. No window, broken radiator, said it would be fine for now. I stood there while Serena walked into my room, talking out loud about paint colors and crib placement, my entire sense of safety quietly crumbling beneath me. I looked at my father again, hoping he'd take it back. Remember, I was his daughter too. He just nodded along with her, like I'd already agreed, like I'd already disappeared. Then Serena turned to me with that same thin smile and said it would honestly be better if I left the house altogether. Not a suggestion, a verdict. My father didn't correct her. He looked at the floor for exactly 2 seconds, then back up and said, "She understands, don't you, Wilda?" And in that moment I understood something, just not what he thought. I understood I'd spent my whole life tolerating a version of him that had been slowly shrinking me, that I'd been so desperate for his approval I kept making myself smaller to fit inside his idea of who I should be. The responsible one, the quiet one, the one who never caused problems. And in return, the moment I needed something back, I got the title of burden. I packed methodically, no tears, because I'd learned crying in front of people who don't care only satisfies them. Laptop, portfolio, my grandmother's jewelry box, every document I owned. My father stood in the hallway and told me I was being dramatic. I didn't answer. Callum stood beside Serena in the kitchen doorway and said absolutely nothing. I sat in my car in the driveway for 4 minutes just breathing. Then I drove to an old college friend, Priya, who had a spare room. I moved in that night with $3,000 in savings and lay awake until nearly 4 a.m., replaying the evening, not with sadness but with a strange, clarifying anger that felt almost like fuel. Something in me broke that night, but it wasn't the part keeping me going. It was the part that had spent years waiting for my father to finally choose me. That part shattered on the drive to Priya's, and I didn't mourn it. 2 days later, everything about that night got turned completely upside down. I was mid-interview when my phone buzzed with a call from Serena. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the 4th call I picked up, her voice was unsteady, almost shaking. "Wilda, I need to talk to you about something. It's not true, what he told us about you. It's not true." I said nothing. She kept going, faster now, and I realized something had happened in the 2 days since I walked out. Something had been uncovered. She asked, almost pleading, "Please tell me you didn't send it." I hadn't sent anything. I let the silence stretch, because I'd learned in the last 48 hours that silence carried more weight than anything I could say. I finally told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She asked quietly, "Then how did they find out?" Over the next 20 minutes she explained everything, and it completely restructured what I thought I understood about that night. A retired neighbor named Gloria, who'd known our family for 15 years, had watched the whole scene unfold from her porch, seen me carry suitcases to my car, seen my father not move to stop me. Gloria had mentioned it to her daughter, who happened to work with a property attorney, who'd previously done legal work for my father. That attorney, hearing the story, started asking questions that led somewhere my father never expected. It turned out the house I'd just been kicked out of, how he'd lived in for 23 years, wasn't entirely his. My grandmother, before she passed, had quietly amended her estate documents to add my name as co-owner 7 years earlier, telling no one but her attorney, contingent on my father's continued residency and care of the property. The moment I was removed and could show I'd been displaced, that condition triggered a legal review. My grandmother had seen things in my father I was only just beginning to acknowledge myself. She'd loved him, but hadn't trusted him completely, and she'd made sure I'd have something solid beneath me if he ever let me fall. Sitting in Priya's living room, I pressed my hand against my grandmother's jewelry box on the shelf beside me and just breathed. Within the week I was in contact with her attorney, a precise woman named Harriet, who walked me through every detail. The co-ownership was real, documented, legally sound. No one could sell, refinance, rent out, or significantly alter the property without my signature. My father, if he wanted any formal security staying in that house going forward, would need to enter into a proper lease with me. The man who'd told me to vacate my room, who'd called me dramatic while I carried suitcases to my car, now needed my signature just to stay in the home he'd lived in for over 2 decades. I didn't celebrate. What I felt instead was quieter than that, more settled, like something that had been so slightly tilted my whole life had finally found its level. I arranged a meeting with Harriet, my father, and Callum at the attorney's office that Thursday. Serena didn't come. My father walked in looking like a man who'd rehearsed something and forgotten every word of it the moment he sat down. Callum stared at the table most of the meeting. Nobody said anything resembling an apology, not in words. But my father's hands were unsteady when he picked up the pen, and I watched him sign a lease agreement for a home that had once been entirely his, now legally shared with the daughter he'd called a burden. I charged fair rent, not punitive, not generous, just fair. I used the first month's payment as a deposit on my own small apartment, closer to the city, where I'd just accepted a position at a design studio better than the one I'd lost. I built something in the exact space my father had tried to leave me with nothing in. To anyone watching who's ever been made to feel too much, too inconvenient, too present in a space someone else wanted for themselves, I want you to hear this clearly. The people who push you out are often most afraid of what you'd become if you stayed. My grandmother knew my worth before I fully did, and she made sure the ground beneath me stayed solid, even when the people standing on top of it weren't.